good. We're going.
Hello, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We are
Hello.
coming to you again from our house in Las Vegas.
Lost Vegas.
Out in the desert.
So sometimes we are trying to figure out what we want to talk about. So we figured that the easiest thing are questions, things that we just answer a lot through social media.
Things we get asked
through
anyway.
People that we get, things that we just get asked a lot about. And one of the topics that is talked about a ton, we're asked a lot of questions about it, is fat loss and staying lean. How do we, what are our best tips, advice, tricks for fat loss, and then keeping the fat off and staying lean year round? And that's something that we've really tried to figure out and done a lot of trial and error, a lot of things to fix that issue and stay lean year round and build muscle at the same time. But we're just going to focus on the fat loss component and a lot of our things that we do to maintain a good body fat percentage. So first of all, we have gone through the gauntlet of diets. We've done so many diets. I've gone through so many just because of past issues with gut problems, health problems, autoimmune disorders, things like that. So I've gone through probably every diet you can think of, and they all have value. Like any decently structured diet has value, except for veganism.
That's funny. We were doing a show and one of the performers was vegan. And not to knock vegans, because I respect if you're vegan because you don't like the idea of eating something that was alive. So consuming a human creature, I get it. I get that. But if you're doing it,
no way around it.
So if you're doing it for moral reasons, I'm like, I get where you're coming from. Although you can argue that even if you're vegan, you're still harming living creatures. I've actually looked quite a bit into this, and you might be saving a cow by eating lots of vegetables, but you're still killing lots of other creatures like rabbits,
birds, rabbits, squirrels,
because
all of it.
The farmers basically have to poison those
Everything.
Animals to keep them from eating their
Everything
vegetables.
In those crop fields are poisoned to death so that your spinach can grow.
Yeah, but that's a whole other thing. Back to
It's fine.
Back to what I was saying. We were doing a show. There was a girl who was vegan, and she was asking me about my diet, and I told her that I eat at least a pound of meat a day.
Red meat.
And she was like baffled by that. But then she went on to say that she had gained like 20 pounds during that show contract, and she didn't understand because she was healthy, because she was a vegan. And I'm like, just because you're eating a vegan diet does not mean you're healthy, because Oreos are vegan.
Yeah. And we don't want to pick on the vegans.
Yeah.
It's just, I would never suggest it as a viable option, because we all know that nobody's really going to do the diet properly. You could actually, because I know people like bodybuilders that they're not professional. There's not a single professional bodybuilder that's on a vegan diet, but I know guys that are vegan that have great physiques and they're very healthy, but it's because they are absolutely wizards and they're so meticulous with their supplementation, their dieting. So if you formulate it and you structure it properly and you're really, really good about it, it's definitely a viable option. It's just everybody knows that they're going to go back to the default mode because it's so easy. And the default mode is vegan Oreos and then just slop. Just like easy to make, easy, cheap to buy and put together. You're just going to revert back to it. And everybody knows they are because it's too hard to stick on that diet and do it properly. The amount of supplementation you're going to be taking, the amount of food prep you're going to have to do. It's difficult. But anyways, there's a lot of diets. We don't necessarily recommend one particular diet per se. So I think people can do their research. They can do what they would like with their diet. What our advice is your macronutrient timing. That's what our biggest suggestion is, and we'll go over more of this throughout the podcast. I'll explain what I mean by macronutrient timing. And so we still eat carbs, we still eat fats. We there's a lot of foods that we eat, but we have a specific timing of how we do it. And I think that this is what results in the best fat loss gains. So diets, they all can have value if they're structured properly. Um, do your research. I'm a huge fan, particularly of something like a paleo style diet.
Mm-hmm.
That helps a lot with people like me that have any type of condition, whether it's a gut condition, autoimmune conditions. Paleo can be very beneficial for that. But that's diet. We'll kind of continue on. We've done a ton of exercise programs. I've gone through like so many. I've bought in so many programs for exercise, for fat loss specifically. And the thing is, and this is something that I picked up from Stan Efferding. You guys can look him up. Awesome dude. He's just a wealth of information and knowledge. And the reality is, any diet or any decently structured fat loss or fitness program, when strictly adhered to, will work. Anything. If you told me that the only exercises I was able to do was push-ups, pull-ups, and walking lunges. That's all you get to do. I guarantee you that I could build a fantastic physique and maintain a very low body fat year round off of 3 exercises. So the point being, not that you should do that. The point being that even a very poorly put together fitness program, when strictly adhered to and all out effort, you put all your effort into it, it's going to be effective. That's kind of like the point, I guess I'm trying to make. So don't worry so much about having the perfect diet. Don't worry so much about having the perfect structured fitness program. Because if you just follow a diet and just follow a structured fitness program, if you just follow it and adhere to it, it's going to be effective. So that's kind of like anything to add on the exercise programming side of it.
Yeah, for exercise, I tell people who ask me what they should do, just move. Literally move. It doesn't have to be difficult. I don't go to the gym and be like, I have to do biceps today. I have to do this today. I mean, there's certain muscle groups I target because I'm trying to grow my legs and my butt. So I do legs and I try to do heavy weights with that. I'm not that strong, but I'm trying.
Yeah.
But anyway, again, like, you're not going to burn fat as a woman going to the gym and just standing there and doing biceps.
An arm day.
So unless your goal is to grow your arms specifically, I would not do that for fat loss. Just move. Go to the gym, walk on the treadmill for 20 minutes a day. I do 2 workouts a day, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend that for anybody else. I just do that because of what we do for a living. And I do like to eat food, so it's like give and take. I can choose to eat less treats and not have to exercise 2 times a day, or completely be 100% only clean food and then only have to work out for like half an hour a day. So, whatever works for you.
Yeah. We've kind of both, we live a little bit by the 80-20 rule. 80% of our diet is clean. 20% is kind of whatever. Same with exercise. It's kind of the same way. So yes, the point she was making is, like have a decent program. Movement is key, but to me, the number one thing that people forget about is the effort that they put into something. So an example, you can have, I see this at the gym all the time. And if you're conscious and you're aware of this, you'll see it. You'll see the guys, you can tell they're probably following some sort of structure, like they're doing a chest day or they're doing a upper body day, whatever. You can tell they're following the structure. But they're just kind of going through the movements. They're doing the reps, they're doing the sets, but you can tell that the all-out effort that they're putting into it is sort of like on the low end. And I think this is where people spin their wheels, is there's just not that much effort. And I think a lot of people don't even know how to put effort into things because they're so used to half-assing everything. They're so used to it. So that when they go to the gym, they think they're putting effort into it, but it's really kind of just a half-ass routine because they don't actually know how to really push themselves. So that would be a suggestion. And I think maybe we'll go into like that side of things, like how you can really put effort into something. We'll go into that maybe in a later podcast or something. And so let's move on to another thing. We've gone through a lot of supplementation because a lot of people want to use supplementation for their diet purposes, which can have some effect. Like there are supplements that can be relatively effective for fat loss, things like that. I've tried so many of them. I've spent thousands of dollars on so much garbage stuff. Some stuff works, most stuff is garbage. So supplements can be an addition. They can be a supplement to your fat loss. I will throw out two specific supplements that I think can be beneficial for fat loss. And that would be a supplement that's called yohimbine. And if you take yohimbine with a fasted cardio session, it's very, very effective for fat loss. So that would be something that I would suggest. And then if you add caffeine to the yohimbine, so if you had like a yohimbine with a coffee or a green tea or a caffeine capsule or something like that, and then did fasted cardio, that's very effective for fat loss. So supplements, we don't focus a lot on supplements for fat loss because they're such a small piece to the puzzle when it comes to fat loss and maintaining a good body fat percentage throughout the year. It's such a tiny, minuscule percentage of it. So yes, there are some supplements that work. I don't have any like huge specific recommendations other than those two, yohimbine and caffeine. Those are like the ultimate in terms of the best when it comes to fat loss. Okay, now I think what we should do is go through. This is what I'm titling it. The number one thing that works best for losing fat and staying lean while increasing your lifespan. Because I think that's a huge thing that people need to focus on, is not just maintaining a low body fat year round, not just having, knowing how to lose fat and keep it off, but in the process of doing it, extending your lifespan. So we kind of have three, and then we'll add a fourth one, but we have three main components that are our go-to number one, what we use for fat loss, like year round. And the first component is intermittent fasting. The second component is breaking your fast with a low to no carbohydrate meal. So you intermittent fast. When you break your fast with that first meal, it's a very low to no carbohydrate meal with proteins and fats and maybe some leafy green vegetables. And then this third component is walking for fat loss, not running for fat loss. So those are the three main things. And now we'll just kind of go through them. You want to start us off with the intermittent fasting and just any advice, any tips for fasting?
Sure. So I do the intermittent fasting. I started because Tice was doing it and it was really working for him. And he looks way more into like the scientific side of things, where with me, I'm like, it looks like it works.
Yeah.
I'll try it. It works for me.
Yeah.
So I'll just tell you what works for me. Um, I love sugar, and I think most women do. I think there's something in us that's just like you just want to eat, and I think it's in our DNA because thousands of years ago you needed to have extra fat because you didn't know when you were going to get to eat again, and we need to be able to get pregnant and have babies. So like I really think it's thousands of years of evolution has caused us to just want to eat everything we see. So the problem
That's
with
true.
me and probably most people is if you wake up and the first thing you eat is like a Pop-Tart or cereal with a lot of sugar, it sends a signal to your brain like, this is delicious, I need more because I need to just eat and keep fat storage. I need this for survival. And so for the rest of the day, you're just craving sugar. You're just craving it.
Yeah.
So for me, what works is if I don't allow myself to start my first or second meal with anything like that. I wake up and I do cardio fasted. I've gotten used to working out without eating. And at first it's kind of hard because you feel hungry and you're like, oh, I have no energy. I can't do it. But you'll just try it and you'll see that your body will have a switch to where it's like, I'm hungry, but we're doing this anyway and I have to deal with it. And then it's like your brain forgets that you're hungry. So I train fasted. And then when I break my fast, it's with beef and potatoes. So Tice does just beef, but for me, I really like having extra carbs. And I don't know if it's like because I'm female.
And yours is, you specifically do like a sweet potato.
Yeah, sweet potato. I do think that women just need more good carbs. And I could be wrong about that. This is just what works for me. So I eat beef, potatoes, and then my second meal, beef, potatoes, and then my third meal. And the way I I have like my internal clock is when the sun goes down, now you can have your cheat meal. So when the sun goes down, I'm like, sweet, now I can have some chocolate and some peanut butter, some good stuff. But this works for me. And I noticed that I was able to stay leaner year round, even by having these cheat meals. Because if you start out the day with sugar, then
you screwed yourself.
Your second meal is sugar, and then your third meal is sugar. That's been 3 meals throughout the day. That's really unhealthy sugar that your body is just going to hold on to and turn into fat. Whereas then if you wait until nighttime, like you've saved those extra calories, almost like you have a savings, the bank of holding on to how many sugar and fat you can have. Well, I've saved that allowance for myself, and now it's later. But like you have all those extra calories that you've saved up that you can have later. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's like it's think of it like a Peter Attia. He's been making the rounds on a lot of podcasts. He brings up this example, and it's great. Doing like what she just said, if you backload, so what she's describing is backload most of your carbohydrates. So you fast during the day, so morning into the afternoon we're fasting, and then she's having a little bits of carbs with her sweet potato for those couple of meals, and then at the night she's backloading all of her carbohydrates. What this is doing is, if you're having carbs throughout the day, it's so easy to spill over. So Peter Attia, he uses the analogy of when you fill up a bathtub, the tub can only hold so much water until it spills over. And when a tub spills over in your house, it wreaks havoc on the house. You're getting flooding. Now you're getting water that's going into the walls. It's seeping down. It's going to cause destruction. So if you're eating carbs throughout the day, it's really hard to not create that situation where you spill over and now you're getting fatter, you're causing problems in the process. Whereas if you just have a window, you've got a limited timing window that you fit your carbohydrates in, you're way less likely to be spilling over because you just have that smaller window. So that's a little bit like what she's describing.
And even if you don't do the fasting and you just eat whenever you eat, just your first few meals, have it be something completely healthy with no sugar. So just some kind of protein, and read the ingredients when you buy food. I promise that will help you. So what I do when I'm at the grocery store, I look at the ingredients, and if it's like so long and I can't even pronounce anything that's in it, don't eat it.
Yeah.
Just don't. Like, that's the problem. And then people ask me, what kind of protein do you use? And they're always surprised when I say, I don't.
We haven't had a protein shake. I haven't had a protein shake in 6 years.
Yeah, especially for somebody who's wanting to lose weight and not gain weight. So I think most men want to gain weight, like in muscle, and then a lot of women just want to kind of stay skinny and leaner.
Yeah.
So for women especially, when they're like, what protein do you use? I'm like, well, why would I drink a protein shake that has like 200, 300 calories when I could literally just eat a candy bar? Like, I could save those 200 extra calories for a treat that I actually like.
Yeah.
So if you're going to the gym and you get done and then you're like, oh, I just did a gym session, now I'm going to drink my protein shake, and then you're going to go home and eat your dinner too, you've actually just added 200 calories. Like, it's kind of like, what would you say? It's like a waste.
Yeah, you're adding calories that are unnecessary.
Right.
Protein in nature was never designed to be assimilated that quickly. So if you're going to drink your protein, like in a shake like that, that's processed and broken down, it's a very, very weird way for your body to digest and assimilate protein. And there's no food in nature where you would assimilate protein that quickly. So any of you, all of you, when you drink a protein shake, you know exactly what I mean. You kind of get that like, ooh.
Well, you get gassy.
Oh, I'm gassy. You're not feeling so good. Don't pretend that doesn't happen to you, because you know it does. You know it does.
Farts.
That's because the way that protein is broken down, and when you drink it like that, it's a very strange process for your body to figure out how to digest that properly. Protein's not meant to be digested that way. So I'm not saying that it's not, you can't do it. There's plenty of people that, you're still going to get the protein. It's not the natural way that your body's supposed to be assimilating it and getting it properly.
Well, yeah, and like if you're actually really trying to gain muscle and put on size, and you're not getting enough calories just in like chicken or beef or fish.
Yeah, you can supplement.
I get it. But that's what it's supposed to be, is to supplement, so you are getting more protein. Or if you're a female who's trying to lose weight, it's a meal replacement. But the problem is people don't actually use it as a replacement. They normally drink their shake and then keep eating all the food. So you're actually making yourself gain more weight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back to intermittent fasting, we suggest a morning through afternoon fast. So obviously you're going to go to bed at night. Pick the time when you stop eating at night. You'll fast through the morning, potentially through the afternoon. We recommend anywhere between a 12 to 18 hour fast. Now, if you're a female, be cautious. There's a hormonal difference between men and women. Fancy that. There's a hormonal difference between men and women. No, there's no way. Not in 2023. We've squashed that.
It changed. Science has changed.
Wow, it's amazing.
Isn't
that weird that there's a difference between men and women?
This is completely off topic, but I was actually thinking about this when I was watching the Discovery Channel with Jax, and he's like, why are the lions like, why does the man lion like look so big, and the female lions don't have the big fancy hair? And I was like, oh, just because that's a man lion and that's a female. I don't know.
They're different.
It's just how it is. Okay.
Anyways, before we offend people.
Love everybody. Freedom.
So we recommend a 12 to 18 hour fast. If you're a female, there is a hormonal difference to where you might want to be cautious. We know a lot of, like Mary can fast for quite a while and not have problems. But you may consider as a female using like maybe a 12 to 14 hour window instead of a 15 to 18 hour. But kind of use your best judgment on that. But anyways, that's kind of the window. And the component where I said earlier, where not only are we focused on maintaining a healthy fat percentage year round and losing fat year round, but there's a component to this to where it will extend your lifespan, and that's through this fasting process. Human beings, our natural state through our entire existence of human, like all of our ancestors, all the way up until about 150 to 200 years ago, the fasting state was the natural state. We were hunting, we were thinking, we were building, we were doing everything in a fasted state. Think about our ancestors living in the wild with no, like, farming hasn't been invented yet. All the cropping, all this stuff that we have nowadays, none of that's been invented. It was highly likely that our ancestors were going a day, 2 days, 3 days, maybe a week without eating anything. And they had to function in that process. So it's my opinion that humans are meant, our best state, our highest functioning state is a fasted state. And so when you learn to intermittent fast and you get comfortable in this state, you'll perform your best in it. So for example, we work out in a fasted state. We didn't used to, but we do now. And if I eat food and then try and go work out, even if I let it digest, I can eat 2 hours and that, or 2 hours later, go to the gym. My workouts are not as good. They're just not. I perform in every way so much better in a fasted state. I think clearer, I perform better, my cardio's better, everything's better in a fasted state. And I just believe that humans are meant to be, we're meant to do our most effective performing and thinking in a fasted state. When you're in a fasted state, there's a lot of things that start happening. One of the things that helps with lifespan is when you're fasting, there's a signal that sends to your body. It's called autophagy. And basically, it's just cell cleanup. So once you hit a certain hour of fasting, once you get past like 15, 16, 17 hours of fasting, you start to get into a state of autophagy. And that's just your body going through cleanup. It's killing off dead cells. It's killing off cancerous cells. It's just doing like maintenance. It's body maintenance. And so this is where the lifespan increasing comes in, and you can actually have the fat loss component and extend your lifespan at the same time by including the fasting. So that's kind of, I think that's fantastic. I think that people should really, really consider this. If you are a professional bodybuilder, it's going to be difficult for you to remain in an extended fasting period because you're going to have to feed your body like a crazy person for you to grow like that. If you're not a professional bodybuilder, you can still grow muscle fantastically. You can look great. You can do amazing things and look incredible off of this fasted state. I just, if you're shooting for pro bodybuilder status, you're going to have to shorten your fasting window. That's another kind of like side note.
Yeah, because bodybuilders, they're trying to eat as much protein as
they have to just slam it. Yeah. It's like a job. It's all day you're eating. So this doesn't, like, we're not really talking specifically to like the pro bodybuilders because they know what they have to do, and some of this stuff doesn't apply to them. But they can still, like, anyone can implement a fasting state of some kind, whether you do a once a week 24-hour fast, whether you do a daily intermittent fast like the way we do. There's many things, there's many ways you can do. We just saw one of our buddies, he's a singer, and I was blown away. He's like, I'm on an 8-day fast right now. He's been fasting for 8 days. And I'm like,
see, I don't think I could do that.
Like, that's freaking gnarly.
Unless
he's a big dude though. Like, he's got a lot of body fat. He's a very big person. So not that it's easy, but he has a lot on him that he can peel off. So it makes it a little easier for him to do the 8 days. But that was incredible. I was like, dang, man, that's wild.
Yeah, I don't think I'd recommend that.
Yeah.
So I'm not recommending that. But good for him. I mean, do your thing.
So intermittent fasting, anything else we need to cover on that? We just 12 to 18 hour window. If you're a female, use caution.
Oh, and
Function in a fasted state. Learn to function in a fasted state, especially when it comes to utilizing your brain. You will think so much clearer. You will be so much sharper if you do most of your thinking and analyzing and all that stuff in a fasted state. It's so much better.
fasting means anything with a calorie breaks your fast. Yes. Okay, so
no calories.
No calories. Soda. Starbucks drinks with all the creams and sugars, that counts as a meal. Yep. So don't be telling yourself, I'm fasting, when you're drinking 600 calories of Starbucks that's filled with cream and sugar, which is basically the worst thing you could ever have anyway.
No calories. If you need something, green tea, plain green tea, you can do like a caffeine capsule that can be beneficial. You can do black coffee, just no calories. Caffeine's okay, just no calories. Okay, next thing that we'll move on to. So we covered the intermittent fasting. I told you there was 3 big components to our fat loss regimen. Intermittent fasting is the first one. That's the most important one. Second one, breaking your fast with a 0 carb or low glycemic carb meal, and have that meal mostly be protein, fats, and leafy greens. So this is a huge component to the fat loss thing, because what's happening when you're fasting, so you've gone through the night fasted, you wake up in the morning, you're fasted, and now you're going through the afternoon fasted, and you're getting close to your tail end of your fasting window. Through this whole time, your body's used up the the available glycogen that you normally would have been using for energy. And somewhere in this long 14 to 18 hour window, or 12 to 18 hour window, somewhere in that window, you are now tapping into using your own body fat for energy. The second that you reintroduce carbohydrates into your face, the second carbs go in here,
into your hole.
It's the second that happens, a switch turns and your body goes, new energy that we can use. And now you turn off the body fat engine, and now you're utilizing that quick source of carbs that you just ate. So whether it's you had some cereal that you broke your fast with, whether you broke your fast with a sugar drink, anything, any carbohydrate, as soon as you introduce the carbohydrate into your mouth, your body's going to stop burning the body fat, and it's going to go right to using that as energy for fuel. So what we suggest is a low glycemic carb or a no carb in that first meal. So you're fasting, it's now time to break your fast. In that meal, make it a very high protein, high fat, and very, very low carbohydrate meal. Because if you do this, your body's still going to stay in that body fat burning mode. You're still going to be in that mode of just using your own fat for fuel, and you're not going to use the fuel that you just put into your mouth. Because protein and fat isn't necessarily immediate fuel in the first place. Like, your body doesn't look at protein and fat as like immediate fuel. And so you'll still stay in this fat burning state until you introduce the carbohydrates. So, so just the suggestion would be delay the carbohydrate intake for as long as you can. That's kind of the suggestion. Or if you're going to put the carbs in, do like what Mary does. Mary has a sweet potato, which is low on the glycemic scale. And so she'll utilize those carbs, but it's not like a sugar shot. It's not like an immediate switch to where you turn off body fat and you're just right to the carbs.
Well, and it's with the protein too. Isn't there something to,
yes,
if you eat it with the protein, it actually keeps it from your it keeps it from spiking your insulin, right?
Right, because she breaks her fast with ground beef that has fat in it. So obviously there's protein, there's fat, and a very complex carbohydrate with the sweet potato. So when that's all mixed together and she eats it, the process of extracting that energy when she's digesting it, it's still going to be a lengthy process to where the body isn't going to utilize it right away. She's still going to be in a body fat burning mode. So that's the key here. Like, it doesn't really matter what you eat to break your fast. Just try to make sure that when you do break the fast, make it a protein and fat meal, not a carbohydrate meal. Or if there is carbs in it, make sure that it's a carb that's as low on the glycemic index and is a complex carb to where it's not like a sugar shot. It's not a straight energy source. Like if you, instead of a sweet potato, if she used like honey, if she just had honey, that's an immediate shot of energy. You'll turn off fat burning right away and use the honey. That's kind of the idea, is extend that fat burning window as long as you can by pushing the carbohydrates to the back end of your day. That's the biggest key of this point. The other thing too for me is when I delay this carb, when I backload the carbs, I sleep better at night. So what happens is I've gone through the whole day with no carbohydrates, and then I have my carbs later in the evening. Maybe I start maybe around like 7 and then cut it off around 9. When I do that, I eat the carbohydrates and I get a blood sugar spike, which is normal. It's going to happen no matter what. I get the blood sugar spike, and then I just try and time it to where when I spike, you're going to start to crash.
Right? Yeah.
And I try to time that with the crash where I go to bed. That's the way I do it. So it's really, I've struggled with sleep my whole life. I've really had a hard time sleeping. And if I can delay the carbohydrates, have that 2-hour window or so where I eat the carbohydrates, I get a blood sugar spike, it drops, and I crash with it and go to bed. So if you have sleep problems, this can be fantastic, a huge help for you guys to do that. What else with backloading the carbs and like breaking your fast and stuff? Do you have anything else to add with that?
Again, just when you do break your fast and then you've eaten your first 2 meals and hopefully you've had them be clean, healthy meals, and then you have your cheat later. Again, when you think cheat, that doesn't mean just go crazy and go like buy all the donuts and eat the whole box, because that's not going to do any good. But so like last night we had ice cream. So I go to the store, I look at the ingredients, and the kind of ice cream we get is just cream, sugar, milk.
Yeah, we still eat ice cream every once.
That's it. But
I had ice cream last night.
It's literally like 3 ingredients. You're not eating all the corn syrup and all these like chemicals and things.
Haagen-Dazs.
So that probably had like 200 calories in it, the clean ice cream that we ate. It tastes delicious.
Yeah.
And so instead of drinking the protein shake earlier in the day, that would have had like 300 calories and probably a bunch of ingredients that I can't even pronounce what the ingredients are. I saved that and I had ice cream later and it was like 3 ingredients. So, yeah.
One thing that I'm going to add to this intermittent fasting plus breaking your fast with a fat and protein meal. One thing that has been the biggest help for me ever, other than just losing the fat and staying lean, one of the biggest helps was I used to go through the most vicious energy dips throughout the day. When I was eating breakfast and having carbs and stuff throughout the day, my energy dips were so gnarly and I just could not function. I would eat something and I'd feel okay. And then I would just go through these crazy ups and downs with my energy. And the second that I just removed carbohydrates and implemented a fasting window, my energy has like flatlined, meaning like I have good energy throughout the day and there's no dips. I don't dip. And it's because of the intermittent fasting and not introducing carbohydrates until the back end of the day. So if you're someone that struggles with energy and you have just the craziest swings, like you could sit down in the middle of the day and just like fall asleep. If that's you, I would suggest stop eating carbohydrates in the daytime and push them to the evening. So that's just one more component, and maybe we'll just move on from there. Okay, the third component. So intermittent fasting was the biggest. Break your fast with a 0 to low carb meal that's high in protein and fat. The third component is walk for fat loss. Don't run.
Oh yeah. A lot of people assume that I get on the treadmill and just run.
Yeah, they're like, how many miles do you run a day, or how fast do you run?
I don't. Like, because first of all, when we were high divers, I fell and I broke my foot very badly. It was pretty bad. So now my foot's got like plates and screws in it to hold it together. So I don't run. You good?
40 minutes?
Yeah.
Still good.
I never, because it hurts my foot too bad. But besides that, like, you're better off just walking on an incline. So that's what I do. I just walk on an incline for 30 minutes a day. You don't need to start with 30 minutes. Start with 20. You can do it at a slow pace, but do an incline because then you're working harder.
Yeah, and so here's the biggest reason why you shouldn't run for fat loss is because what people don't realize is there's stages that your heart rate will get to. And if your heart rate is elevated to the point to where you're breathing heavy and you can't really have a conversation, your body, because of what you're doing, like you're exerting a lot, you're using a lot of your energy when you're running, your body's going to tap into burning glycogen and sugar for that process. So if you're running and you're in a state where you're breathing heavy and you can't have a conversation, you're in a state where you're most likely going to be burning sugar, glycogen, and you're not going to be burning fat because you're just in an elevated exercise state. So what we suggest is bring your cardio to a steady state, low, like you're not breathing heavy. It's a state to where basically walking, or you're on an incline and you're walking and you're able to have a conversation. If you can have a conversation and still do the exercise, you're in a heart rate to where you're going to be using most of just body fat for the fuel for that exercise, and you won't be tapping into using oxygen and sugar and the glycogen for that exercise. So just so that we're clear, if you're doing cardio and you're breathing heavy and you can't have a conversation, you're most likely just burning glycogen, not fat. If you're doing cardio and you can have a conversation and it's easier pace, you're definitely burning fat for that session. Okay, so that's huge for this. So we know so many people that run all the time and they don't lose weight and they can't figure it out. They don't understand why. They run 5 miles a day or whatever, and they don't understand why they're not actually losing body fat. And it's because they're tapping into glycogen and they're just burning the glycogen instead of the body fat. So bring the intensity of the cardio down and you'll burn fat so much easier. What else on that subject? Oh, here's a huge one. This is a huge component to this. The other thing too, as soon as you get into that elevated heart rate, so you're running to try and lose fat, you get there and what's happening is you're increasing your appetite. When you get to that where you're doing a long bout of cardio and you stay in a higher elevated heart rate, your appetite's going to spike. So a lot of people spin their wheels and they're like, I don't understand. I run all the time and like, what's going on? Well, in the process of all that running, they're also spiking their appetite. So they're going to be eating more. Whereas if you walk, you're in a fat burning state when you walk and you don't spike your appetite at all. So that's another huge component to this that I would recommend everybody like switch to. If you're a runner, it's fine, especially if it's sport specific.
Yeah.
But if you're like, I just need to lose fat, then stop running because you're just spiking your appetite and only tapping into glycogen burning. Bring it back, walk, don't spike your appetite, and you'll peel body fat off that way.
But also walk with like a purpose. if that makes sense.
Yeah. You still want it
you
to
still want to be working hard.
Yeah.
So when you're walking on an incline, you're like, oh yeah, I'm getting winded.
You just gauge it. You just gauge it. If you can have a conversation while you're doing the thing, you're in the right state. If you're to the point where you're like, and then if that's you, you're in an elevated heart rate to where you're going to be tapping into glycogen and not body fat. So gauge it through your breath. Can you have a decent conversation? If you can, you're probably in the right state.
Yeah. So basically, if you want to lose some fat, move, eat healthy food with very low ingredients or single ingredient food, and move some more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are the three biggest tips for us, and I've been going through this stuff for decades, and this is literally like, at least I've been working out for almost 2 decades. What we've just given you is at least a decade of trial and error. We've gone through so many things, and I can guarantee you that if you implement intermittent fasting, break your fast with a low to no carbohydrate meal, backload your carbohydrates, and then walk for fat loss, don't run. If you just did those things, if that's all you did, there's no freaking way you're not going to lose weight. There's no way. And so those are the number one, the best tips like we could give you for weight loss. We'll add in kind of like an extra credit. This would be like the fourth thing if you wanted to add one more thing. And that would be some type of HIIT cardio, high intensity interval training cardio, 2 to 3 times a week.
Yeah, what I do, I set a timer on my phone. I have an app. It's free. It's called Seconds. But I'm sure there's all kinds of apps up there you can find. But yeah, I just set my timer, and I'll say 30 seconds burpees.
Yeah.
15 seconds rest. 30 seconds just sitting down and jumping up. Like, sit on the chair, jump up. Sit on the chair, jump up. So something like that. That's what I do.
And that's all it is. It's just interval training. You do an interval, whether it's 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute. You do an interval of high intense work. And then right after that's done, you do an interval of very low to moderate intense work. So she does hers with the app, and she does jumping. She does a lot of things included. I make mine as simple as possible. I do one thing. I get on the Airdyne bike. That's the bike where you pedal and you push the handles at the same time. All the CrossFitters use those bikes. So I'll get on that bike, and I will do 5 minutes. And what I'll do is I'll start it off with 50 seconds, 50 seconds of just moderate, easy pedal pushing. And then I'll do 10 seconds of an all-out sprint, as hard as I possibly can for 10 seconds. And then I go back to 50 seconds of very easy, and then 10 seconds of all out. And so I just do that for 5 minutes. That's it. If you incorporate a HIIT cardio like what she does, or like what I just said, if you do that 2 to 3 times a week, that will dramatically extend your body's ability to burn fat. So that would be the extra credit. You can use what she does, that app, and then she kind of just picks various exercises, make one of them intense, the other one not so intense, and just go back and forth. The other thing you can do is you can do sprint walks. So you can sprint for 10 seconds and then walk for 50 seconds. Sprint for 10 seconds, walk for, so you can do that way. You could do burpee walks. You could burpee as quickly and as hard as you can for 10 seconds, walk for 50 seconds. Burpee, it doesn't really matter. It's just you create some sort of interval where you're doing all out effort as hard as you can for a short window, and then moderate, and you go back and forth. You don't have to do it for more than 8 minutes. That's all you have to do. 2 to 3 times a week. And that's kind of your extra credit for fat loss. So that's pretty much it. I think we just saved everybody thousands of dollars, decades of research, and Very simple. It's very easy.
Move.
Intermittent fast, walk, don't run. That's way better. And don't break your meal with a stupid meal. Just have it be fat and protein.
Ta-da!
Anyways, I guess we'll wrap it up there. Guys, we're kind of opening up our fitness training. So if you've got questions about this stuff, please put stuff in the comments. Give us tips. If you're interested in what we can offer you in terms of training, let us know, because we're going to start ramping up a lot of our online training. So let us know any questions you have, comments, any more suggestions on topics we should cover, things that you want to know more, from us. And that's pretty much it.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.